The older I get, the more time haunts me. I don't know if you're anything like me, but my life often flashes before my eyes, and I routinely am flooded with memories of my past. A large portion of these are very positive too, and I struggle with the fact that I will probably never get to relive these moments. They were so good! In fact, if I try hard enough, I can even feel what it felt like to live in a certain season. You know, I can feel how it felt when my wife and I were living in Lexington, Kentucky, or when we lived in Westchester, Pennsylvania. I think of hanging out with my friends from the past, going to my first MagFest, when I had a track get played on ABGT, or even when I went to certain shows in other countries. When I think and feel hard enough, I am in those moments. Occasionally, I wish I could go back in time to relive these moments, but as we are not creatures who exist on a fourth dimensional plane, this is of course impossible. But would it even be a good thing to access our memories like this? To go back in time and relive them, or to even change things in the past that didn't go in our favor? Without getting too Black Mirror-y, I want to focus on what 3 video games have to say about time travel and how it affected the world and mental health of the characters within them. The lessons we learn in Chrono Trigger, The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, and Final Fantasy XIII-2 give us some much needed direction in this realm of thinking. We'll start with the oldest game first and move up from there as the themes and philosophical content get more complicated as the console generations advance, at least with these 3 examples. What we will find out is that having the power to mold time to their will often serves the characters nicely, but it doesn't always have this effect. As a central aspect of the game, time travel influences the characters of Chrono Trigger in several ways. For one, Chrono and his party are faced with several decisions they must make. Back when Chrono Trigger was made, games containing decision-making that affected the story were not as common as they are in today's world, though they absolutely did exist. The significance of weighing options, evaluating perspectives, and maintaining mindfulness of potential long-term effects was critical to advancing in this game and getting the best ending, subjective as this is to players. By being faced with these choices, but also being able to track back and forth at will throughout time, players become exceptionally aware of how their choices will affect future generations. Chrono and his party come across people and situations that were affected by actions in the past, sometimes for good, but on occasion, not so good. In life, it is so easy to act in the here and now and not consider how the things we do will affect us months and even years from now. Through time travel, Chrono Trigger presents the concept of leaving a lasting legacy, which is something I think we should all keep in mind despite everything I just mentioned previously. Whether that legacy is in 2 months or in 100 years, knowing that what you have done will positively impact others only makes the world a better place. As I stated in my last video, being kind, generous, and caring leads us to a more fulfilling life, which greatly enhances our mental health and has a ripple effect that can cause others to do good as well. If there's one thing that Chrono Trigger shows us, it's that we should think beyond our immediate circumstances and raise awareness of the choices we make and how they can affect others, even if that means eons from now. Yeah, that's something those guys weren't thinking about. Just profits. If I'm being real, not much talk seems to be had these days about legacy, especially when we know that the world is on fire, people seem more divided than ever, and hope, which was once abundant, seems like a dwindling resource. People are becoming more and more discouraged by rough living conditions, the weight of late-stage capitalism's boot on our necks, and the fact that if you live in a country like the United States, you are one accident or mishap away from bankruptcy due to medical debt. Now, I only mention these things because they are objective reality, and I do acknowledge that we live in a very privileged position in comparison to other parts of the world. I try to be as positive as I can be though, all the while being a realist. So, despite the absolutely stupid conditions we face in this world right now, caused by the actions of a greedy few in the past, we shouldn't lose hope just yet. At the rate that science and technology is progressing, I am confident humanity will find a way out of the pitfalls it is facing. Despite the opposite always seeming more likely, I choose to have hope. Now, of course, there is no way I can know this for a fact, as if I could predict the future, this video would have an entirely different focus. As a whole though, our species is resilient, and we can already see micro changes happening if we look hard enough. These will only increase as time moves forward, but time has to move forward. And although this current diatribe is just an objective observation of what is going on around us, I'm no politician, and this video is not about politics. In a world that is going to shit with a lackadaisical cast of characters, the inhabitants of Clocktown, that the young people in this world are often considered to be like, it is very easy to understand why there would only be one person who wants to save the world, right? But does Link even want to save the world in Majora's Mask? Does he just want to get the happy mask salesman his mask back, or is he really searching for Navi? I suppose since Link actually never says a word, we can't really know beyond what we can speculate from the rest of the story. All that is said is that this is Link's secret and personal journey in search of his friend, Navi, the fairy from Ocarina of Time. But it's this world, one of almost certain catastrophe, that is much like ours today. The apathy surrounding the world's eventual fate is felt throughout Clocktown, similar to how there is a lack of caring about certain issues in our world today. So if you will, please put on your all-night mask as we dive deep into the emotional and psychological aspects of this game, because, you know, no one has ever done it before. With the moon about to destroy the world in 3 days because of Majora's Mask and its possession of the Skull Kid, there is an impending sense of doom in the world. But like I said, this is very much coupled with a sense of apathy. Once in a while, these feelings are felt at the exact same time. Through interacting with Terminus citizens, Link encounters their numerous struggles, in which he strengthens his empathy, confronts and processes grief, and deals with mortality, the passage of time, and change to find healing. When Link adorns the various masks of the game, he finds that he is able to transport himself into places he otherwise couldn't have gone, whether that is into a new area of the game or into the mental psyche of another character. While acquiring the Goron and Zora masks specifically, he must go through the process of discovering the backstories of the characters whose essence he now wears to transform himself into these creatures. The Goron mask allows Link to transform into Darmani III, a fallen warrior of the Gorons, who died on a journey to investigate the cause of the winters at Snowhead. The Zora mask enables transformation into Mikau, a fallen Zora hero who was fatally injured trying to recover Zora Princess Lulu's stolen eggs from the Gerudo pirates. Both of these characters were full of regret about what happened to them, and require Link to play the Song of Healing to heal their souls and free them from the regrets of their past. If this isn't a great example of how video game music heals, I don't know what is. Through these examples, we see how choices and the things that happen to us can affect the future. In fact, through Link being able to wear the Zora and Goron masks and don the abilities of these fallen heroes, their legacy lives on despite their regrets. Using these abilities, Link is eventually able to save the world, and that is one of the most significant things about Majora's Mask, at least for me. The value of time is also something that the world of Termina teaches us, albeit an extreme 3-day example. All of us have different time clocks, and without trying to sound too morbid, they're all counting down. This is something that I am hyper aware of, and it makes me want to have as many experiences as possible, which I guess you could say is what this game is all about. The sense of urgency you feel in Majora's Mask to do as much as possible in as little time as possible can be overwhelming at times, but it's a good reminder of the fleeting nature of existence. Of course, Link gets to play the Song of Time and travel back 3 days over and over again, but in these consecutive cycles, aside from the experience of saving the world, Link also gets to change the world he's in. Through helping the citizens of Termina resolve their issues, he brings about positive changes to their lives, and the game rewards you immensely for this. As the NPCs open up in a vulnerable way about their lives' details and problems, it not only strikes a keen sense of compassion, but unearths an understanding of mortality and processing grief. Most examples that I can think of in my own life where I have gone out of my way to help someone in need have been very rewarding as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the more generous and caring we are for others, the more fulfilling our lives are. Granted, we are taking the steps to ensure our own self-care and not being taken advantage of. Remember, life is not black and white. It is great, and we should always strive for a sense of balance in the things that we do. Lastly, as stated before, we are three-dimensional creatures, not four-dimensional. And what I mean by that is we cannot travel throughout time. And as such, we must live with our choices. I know that because of the condition of the world at the moment, coupled with most people's inability to change things on a macro level, it's easy to live in apathy like the citizens of Clocktown. However, I challenge you to actually take what you do seriously in life, because there is hope. And in your lifetime, the things you do actually matter. And dare I say, when we help others in need, it could dissolve any remnants of apathy that they once had, and who knows, they might also change the world for the better. Like the characters in Chrono Trigger, Link realizes that some of his actions in the present moment are irreversible and will carry on regardless of his ability to manipulate time. This especially is a crazy concept to me, as you would think someone with the ability to manipulate time would be able to control and change whatever they wanted at will, but as we will see in Final Fantasy XIII-2, with its focus on paradoxes, this is not always the case. I actually loved the Final Fantasy XIII series. Yeah, I know. Haters gonna hate. Despite what the hardcore fans say about these games, I found their worlds, music, stories, and battle systems to be brilliant. Aside from coping with loss and scrutinizing their choices, the main characters, Noel and Sarah, must also deal with the consequences of their actions as they trek back and forth throughout time. Final Fantasy XIII-2 is full of paradoxes, or odd conflicting events that players will encounter as the timeline becomes warped and changed. At times, these consequences are unexpected, which teaches the characters about the delicate nature of time and the importance of what they are doing when they are altering the timeline. This directly confronts how they perceive cause and effect, which reveals time as something that is not linear, like Final Fantasy XIII's gameplay, lol, but a complex web of interconnected moments. Of course, similar moments happen in the other games, but the way Final Fantasy XIII-2 presents these paradoxes stands out in a powerful way from the rest. In my opinion, the most important lesson that the game teaches us is one of acceptance. In all three of these games, the characters are traveling throughout time, trying to undo wrongs and fix mistakes in hopes that the future will appear just a little bit brighter. In fact, Final Fantasy XIII-2 starts with Sarah's initial quest of finding her sister, Lightning, as she is haunted by her absence in her life. As Sarah and Noel travel through time, shake things up, and deal with the consequences of paradoxes, Sarah learns to accept that the world is constantly evolving, and that one should be able to adapt to change and find strength in moving forward, even in the face of loss. Sarah is constantly warned that she gets closer and closer to death every time she changes the timeline, and in fact, does die as the game closes. This portrays a powerful message that acceptance should be the way forward. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a concept known as anicca, or impermanence, and the more keen one is to embrace it, the more free their life will be. Impermanence is the idea that everything in the world, whether objects, people, relationships, thoughts, emotions, or even the universe itself, is in a state of change and flux. Nothing is static or fixed. Everything arises, exists for a time, and eventually perishes or ceases to exist. According to this philosophy, all conditioned phenomena are part of the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth known as samsara. The comprehension of impermanence provides insight into the nature of reality, and accepting it only leads to developing a more balanced and peaceful psyche. To a certain extent, all of the characters in all of these games are trying to change something that they are uncomfortable with, as they are not able to accept their past mistakes, regrets, the bad things that happen to them, or the things that are out of their control, which could even happen in the future. If we take the whole saving the world element out of the equation, as only a select few of us will be faced with the drastic responsibility of such a life, I'm sure many of us can relate to them. I know I can. To get a bit personal, earlier in my life, I made a few lucky trades in the stock market and doubled my money. I was ecstatic. However, I got cocky and didn't sell my stock. So as cool as it was to watch number go up, I also watched it fall abysmally before my very eyes. I've struggled with that moment and used to wish I could travel back in time and do things differently. Today I've made peace with it though. It taught me valuable lessons about my character, self-control, and knowing when to let go that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. And who knows, I could have become a money-hungry Wall Street douche canoe if this didn't happen to me. We can only speculate. I was also in a mentally abusive relationship at one point in my life that really messed with my head. In some ways, I'm still recovering from it. There were a couple of times after the fact that I desired to go back in time and never enter into that relationship, but despite its flaws, I am a stronger person today because of it. Of course, I cannot know where my life would be if I didn't enter into that bond. I can only speculate. Yet, I am ultimately content and proud of who I've become. That experience changed me for the better, and who knows? If I went back in time to change it, I certainly wouldn't be making this video with the style and perspective that I currently am. As Jisun Hughes from my music and mental health podcast, episode 19, reminded me, one day, this pain will be useful. Time is a fleeting resource, and while we should strive to have every experience we can before our days have expired, accepting reality for what it is, an ever-changing and constantly evolving world, is paramount. Acceptance of where we are, what we've done, and appreciation for the good times we have experienced should be the aim. We should even be accepting of the mistakes we've made in the past, learn from them, and move forward. Scholarly research suggests that when we make mistakes, we do regret them more in the short term, but in the long term, we are more prone to regret inaction. So as Maya Angelou noted, when we know better, we do better. When we are able to sit with the fact that life will keep moving forward and changing, and when we are comfortable with the fact that nothing lasts forever, it frees us from the prison of trying to control things that are out of our reach, but simultaneously urges us to make good decisions about matters we know will affect the future. Let's not let our past mistakes cause inaction, especially when we know we need to do what's right. So, let's achieve a balance here, as I like to emphasize with all things in my life. With the things we absolutely cannot control, let's live in a state of acceptance. With the things we can control, let's let our experiences in life give us the wisdom to make decisions in the here and now that will affect our future in a positive manner. Let's appreciate the fact that we even had good times in the first place, not be sad that we won't get to relive those moments. After all, in a way, we won the genetic lottery with the fact that we exist now in a portion of this insane timeline where, despite how ugly the world can be sometimes, is actually one of the best periods of existence that our species has ever had. With our regrets, let's come to a state of peace and realize that, like in the world that Noel and Sarah traversed, things could actually be worse if the timeline was changed. Let's be as present as we can be in the moments that we have, as we only get so many, and know each one should be cherished and utilized to spread love, positivity, and acceptance. If you like this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up so that the algorithm will hate me slightly less as each day passes. I really want to get these messages out there, and I really hope that they help at least someone cope with the circumstances of life and to become a better human. Remember, we can all do so much more united than divided. Also, I release a new club-ready video game remix every other week on Theology Thursday. So if you are into that sort of thing, please hit the bell so you become aware of all the videos that I upload. I release a music and mental health podcast episode every month where I throw down a DJ mix, usually of the latest and greatest video game remixes, and then have a discussion about mental health topics in general with my podcast partner, DJ Fat Rain, therapists, and other guests alike. I also make these What Video Games Taught Me About My Mental Health videos every month. And speaking of, next month, we'll be talking about my one true love, Samus Aran, how isolation affects our mental health, and the concepts of ambient storytelling. Until next time, stay strong and remember to take care of each other.